Tonight, the Rosenstein watch continues. He remains the #2 man at justice and the top man overseeing the Mueller investigation. The question is, for how much longer? Details on a meeting now set with the president that could be his final act on the job. Then, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh both set to testify for the Senate here before the Senate this Thursday. But as the White House and top Republicans double down on Kavanaugh, two new accusations have surfaced. So, where does the nomination go from here? Then the New Jersey Senate race. It's a lot closer than anybody expected. Can a stinging new ad help Republican Bob Hugin catch up to Bob Menendez? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Wow, what a busy Monday. It's a rare day when the entire political world is focused on two events and really the fates of two people, both at the same time. But that's exactly where Washington and indeed the nation are tonight. That is a pair of Trump nominees, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. They are front and center in the national spotlight. One may be on the verge of losing his job. The other in jeopardy of being denied the new job he and the White House are desperately seeking. First, the fate and the future of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Rosenstein, the man overseeing Bob Mueller and the investigation, he remains on the job tonight, though many, including himself, thought he may be gone as we speak. Rosenstein on the presidential hot seat after the Times reported this Friday that he talked of recording his conversations with President Trump potentially and also spot of recruiting cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment that will remove Trump from office. Rosenstein, he denies vehemently those reports. But Rosenstein, he is the gatekeeper, Robert Mueller, obviously the top person at the justice overseeing this investigation, and any effort to axe Rosenstein could be a prelude to firing Mueller. Now, while everybody waits to see what the president will do, he surprised many by not firing Rosenstein over the weekend. Now, the two, they're set to meet on Thursday, and no one knows for sure what will happen from there.
I spoke with Rod today, and we're going to have a meeting on Thursday when I get back to the White House. We want to have transparency. We want to have openness.
The fate of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein is hanging in the balance, despite the very public handshake with Chief of Staff John Kelly following their meeting at the White House. Now, that meeting causing mayhem in D.C., as sources have said that Rosenstein was headed to the White House expecting to be fired, though for months the White House has faced this question.
Is the president going to fire Rod Rosenstein?
I don't have any announcements at this time.
His relationship with the Trump administration has been a contentious one. President Trump first cited a memo written by Rosenstein as his justification for firing FBI Director James Comey. Though the president later expressed a different reason, there were reports Rosenstein felt used. As the man in charge of the ongoing special counsel's Russia investigation, Rosenstein, he has continued drawing the ire of President Trump. The president has even tweeted, seeming to suggest Rosenstein was part of what he called the witch hunt. It appears the straw that broke the camel's back, that was last week's bombshell New York Times story alleging that former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe had written memos that described Rosenstein as proposing the idea of secretly recording the president and possibly looking to invoke the 25th Amendment to have him removed from office. Sources are saying that Rosenstein may have been being sarcastic, and members of the president's own cabinet are denying that the events even happened.
No discussion with me about the 25th Amendment anywhere either.
I am not aware of any cabinet members that are even talking about that. It is completely and totally absurd.
If Rosenstein is fired, it's not clear who would replace him. Now, the president may have some leeway on that decision. Others think this man may be the next in line. His name, Noel Francisco. He's the Solicitor General, big backer of presidential power. He could well have a different view on the special counsel than does Mr. Rosenstein. But there are reports that Francisco would also have to recuse himself from the Russia investigation. The private firm that he last worked for represented the president's campaign during the 2016 election. So a lot of moving parts and what-ifs in this story. And to help us sort it all out, let's turn once again to Roland Riopel. Roland, an attorney in private practice, former federal prosecutor. Roland, I thought Friday when this story broke, the weekend wouldn't pass here before Rosenstein would have been shown the door. I was wrong. Then today I thought, okay, you know, Trump's out of town. He's going to outsource doing the dirty work like he always does, and Kelly would give the bad news. But Rosenstein emerges from the White House. He still has his job. The meeting's set for Thursday. Do you believe Wednesday he is either asked to resign, or is he terminated, or does he stay in his position?
I think on Thursday he'll be leaving his position. I think what's going to happen, Richard, is I think that Mr. Trump will ask for Rosenstein's resignation. I believe Rosenstein will refuse to give it. And I think then Trump will fire him. And I think the reason Rosenstein will refuse to give it is that under the Federal Vacancy Reform Act, if Rosenstein resigns, it will be easier for Trump to appoint someone in his place. And if he is fired, it will be more difficult and will require the consent and review of the Senate, more likely. I think Rosenstein is going to fight to be fired.
So I want to go through where the dominoes may fall after that. But didn't you think by now those declassified documents were going to be made public? Apparently, that would set in motion the whole idea that there was a cabal here to go get Trump before he even was sworn in. Why do you think it is that they've remained private?
I think because they are less helpful to Trump than they initially believed. I think they have remained private probably because there is a lot of very damaging evidence in there for Trump, and there's no rush to reveal them all. They're going to pick and choose and leak a few of the things that are helpful to him and let the rest of them kind of stay on the shelf. I think that's what's happening.
Okay, so if on Thursday, and you make complete sense, because Rosenstein's not going to make this easy for the president, and there is a distinction between quitting and being terminated in terms of how the process works, who then would assume the oversight role of the Mueller probe?
Well, the view generally has been that it would be Noel Francisco as the next person in line at the Justice Department. Now, Mr. Francisco is a very able person, but this is a job that I think is not for the faint of heart, and there is an alleged conflict with his former firm, and he may try to bow out of it, saying that I have a conflict, I can't do it, somebody else has got to do it. Now, Rosenstein has a very able deputy, a man named Ed O'Callaghan, who I know. He would step up at least for Rosenstein's other duties. But if Noel Francisco bows out, it probably then moves to the next person in line at the Department of Justice and on down the line until there is someone with no conflict who is confident enough to go ahead and supervise Mueller.
So, and part of this is political, this next question, but it goes to the practical. Given that we're 40 some odd days here from the midterms, and all of what within Republican segments, the panic they would have is they already have a tough deck that they're being dealt, and to add on top of it the firing of Rosenstein, they don't want this. So if the president's going to move ahead and do this, political consequences be damned, it would have to be as the prelude to the equivalent of Saturday Night Massacre 2.0. Why fire the guy unless you want to shut down the Mueller probe? Do you buy that?
I do, Richard. I think the whole purpose in firing Rosenstein is to install somebody, and maybe you fire Sessions too. You see, if you fire them both, and then you put in a new attorney general, you can have that new attorney general will be the supervisor unless that person has a conflict. And if you can replace Rosenstein, then that person is going to be the new supervisor of Mueller, and you want to replace him with somebody that will do your bidding. I think that's what the president is up to here.
And I only got a minute, but here's my question. In many ways, has the president waited too long if he was going to do this, in that you can't just make the whole Mueller probe go away at this point? He's enlisted state attorney generals. He's very far along in the investigation, beyond the indictments and the cooperating witnesses and the convictions. My point is, he can't make this go away even if he wants to, as we're getting into October, can he?
Richard, again, I agree with you on that. I think Mr. Mueller has gathered so much evidence and has had such success in pursuing this prosecution that it's really too late to derail it entirely by firing Rosenstein and Sessions. That may delay the outcome some because of the turmoil it'll cause at the Department of Justice, but I don't think at this late date that Mr. Trump can head this investigation off and prevent it from moving forward to some kind of denouement.
And to that point, just remember, everyone, in November we have the midterms, and if Democrats take back the House, you can immediately assume subpoenas will soon there follow, and this again will see the light of the day even through that process. Roland, as always, who the hell knows where we go from here, but I appreciate you helping to make sense out of the insane, and that is where we are today. Thursday will be a fascinating historical day.
And I'll be around on Thursday, Richard.
I was about to say, don't you go anywhere.
Strikes.
Yes, please. Thank you, Roland.
Okay.
All right, now the Rosenstein story, just one of the major political headlines we're tracking this Monday night. When we come back, the very latest on the Kavanaugh nomination process. We await the dueling testimony of Kavanaugh and Dr. Blaisley Ford this Thursday. That's right, the same day that Trump and Rosenstein are meeting. Anyway, there is a new allegations today against Kavanaugh. This is the president and top Republican leaders in the Senate push for his confirmation no matter what. Stay with us. Congressman Hines will join me with more.